What's interesting is as I'm turning the doorknob, I can taste metal, which is interesting.
Hmm.
Like I can taste the doorknob. I'm opening it, walking in the home. It's like I see Greg's chair. Oh, and there's Zimmy.
Ah, wonderful. I wonder if,
Nothing, nothing remarkable. Just like an everyday, like she's just was here every day for years.
yes. I wonder if Simi might lead you to the portal that you're going to use today.
It's like I'm seeing first I'm just seeing a mouse, like a cat toy. She's leading me to a cat toy. Okay.
Wonderful.
It's like I'm just getting the message that's like my fun is what connects me to my expansion. It's a toy. It's like
It
the
is a toy. And if Simi doesn't want to lead you to a portal, you can just open one and intend that
I'm
as we
seeing.
count.
I'll tell you what I'm feeling and seeing because it's like I'm seeing a line that's going around and it's like a record player. I'm seeing a record player and but there's some other meaning. It's like a child's toy. Like I'm spinning a toy around like a ball on a string.
Okay.
And it's like I'm being shown that the portal, it's the same geometry as the question that we're asking about with the axis.
Yes,
And
I knew it was going to be. You did too.
yeah, how to describe it or to put it in, how to compare the two. But
Shall
it's
we
just very
formally?
steady and rhythmic and it's moving and it is on a plane. It
Yes.
is a plane.
So shall we say that we have a question regarding the axis that the whole universe revolves around?
Yeah, and it's almost like the answer is so easy you can't anything that we do to try to describe it just makes it more complicated. The understanding's so innate, and maybe there's some math that can be applied to it that would make sense. But what I'm seeing right now is like I'm seeing Julia and she's taking this plane or this representation of the plane and she's turning it on its side just because she likes the portal that way. That's how she sees it. And so she's turning it on its side and just opening it up and going in, making the determination to go in to see this from a different angle, see it from the inside.
Excellent.
And it's interesting because it's all visual. Usually I'm like there firsthand, yeah, but I'm seeing this all from the outside, like seeing her do it.
Yes. Who are you? If she is her, who are you right now?
That's what I ask myself. And they're like, well, you're already there. You're in it.
Okay.
And it's like it's like like I'm a particle or a
Or an atom.
yeah, and part of an atom, the inside. There's they the Buckminster Fuller is important, the buckyball and the geometry of Buckminster Fuller and what I'm already sort of kind of aware of. It's like there is a connection, there is a lineage, and it's not separate from the chemistry that's in our body. It's not separate from anything, but that it differentiates according to need. And what's important about this axis that what's important about it that we need to know? What needs to come?
Yes.
I just keep seeing this line. It's like it's very imaginary as opposed to like, incarnating into another life and it feeling very real, but I'm seeing like I'm writing this line. It's like I'm going in and then I'm coming out. And then I'm going in and then I'm coming out. And on this plane it's flat, but it is a torus in another dimension. In the higher dimensions is toroidal.
Yes.
And it is toroidal here, but it's such a, you might as well call it flat based on like the way a human would perceive it. Like it is, looking at the universe, it is on a plane, even if the plane is, this
Yes.
whatever. It,
Does this axis, if I can ask a question, does it evolve, expand, and contract with humanity, or is it separate?
it seems separate. It doesn't,
Okay.
it seems unchanging from the viewpoint that I'm seeing. What changes is my position on the line. So it's like,
Okay.
say you draw a line on a record and you start the record playing. I mean, it's like a spirograph almost, the pattern that they're showing me. It's like you go, the line's going around and you go in and out, and so it forms sort of a flower.
Neat.
I mean, it's
Yes.
got to be the flower of life.
Of course. Of course it
It's
is.
like, of course, yeah. I'm like, but I'm seeing how it's weird. I haven't felt, it's more visceral than I've experienced it in the past. So it's an interesting feeling to like riding that line on a flat plane. Hmm.
That we also know is a Taurus, even if we're not experiencing it as such.
Yeah. Hmm.
Is there any information more that would be helpful for the professor and Diana and others who are interested in this topic?
Well, it makes me curious what they'd like to know. What's their line of questioning as far as what do they want to, what do we want to, what do any of us want to do with it? What's the goal? And then it's almost like you set the goal and then you see the pattern coming through it. So it's just about manifestation. It's the universal principle of everything. But you can reverse engineer it as we already know, but it's just like showing me the mechanics of it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's like I almost understand it.
Right. Perhaps there's an element of it that we are not yet able to understand.
Yeah, well, I'm being told that there's another more perspective. I mean, there's infinite perspectives, but there's another perspective that I think we're going to go to or end up end up with that puts it that makes it more accessible. Hmm.
Are you ready to go to that other perspective?
Not quite. It's this
Not
like there's
quite. There's
still, yeah,
something,
it's like there's still something about this molecule, or I'm gonna call it, I'm gonna say proton. I'm not sure if that's accurate because like I'm sensing maybe I can sense more than just one, because like I'm sensing the inside
right.
of the atom and then I'm sensing movement, like the parts that move, and I don't know if I'm technically even defining those right, but it's like I'm sensing that part that moves, like the part that orbits. That's 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 what I'm tapping into. That's part of what's important about this manifestation. It's like there's movement on all different levels. There's movement on this axis. There's movement on this axis. And maybe there's something about expanding, like as we're talking about the plane, expanding it into the torus, or
Mm,
even stacking layers. It's like I'm seeing something about the stacking.
yes.
Hmm. This is all in an old woman's house. I'm
Wow.
getting very emotional.
That's all right. Just
I don't know
let
her,
it
but
flow.
I know this woman.
Is she keeper of the axis?
I don't.
Yeah, just let it come. We have time.
It's like she's a grandmother energy. It's similar to the energy that I was telling you about yesterday on your own. It might be the same,
Mm.
I'm not sure. But I see an old woman with I don't know how to describe it except just a wonderful perm. I can't see her face, but it's her perm. It's her hair, her curls that are important for some reason. And I'm not sure that, and just the quality of this home, she's showing me it's the humanity of it. It's the how we can be in the simulation, in the world. We can be in the material world, and it's stacked like layers and layers and layers and layers, and all those layers. There's just a record on this old woman's. We're just a record on an old woman's record player.
We are.
She's just listening to us for pleasure, for entertainment, for joy, to bring richness.
Lovely. You
And it's
know,
like the woman has some sort of knowledge of this, but she's not. She doesn't call herself God, or she's not doesn't consider herself prime creator of the universe or anything. She's somehow she was there for the recording of this record.
the Akash somehow.
Like it was a jam session. Like she was there when it was recorded. And she knows those people and she knows the players. And it's bringing her back to that time.
Mm.
And so it's almost like it's showing that it's like addressing my sense of limitation. The same way that you could say a recording is a limitation as compared to the event when it happened. But as she's listening to this recording, she's taken back. It's expanding her space time in that moment. So even though the limitation it's a small, it's a smaller version of what happened, when she takes that seed and brings it here, it comes into the flower of fruition. And this is what we're doing when we're creating reality. It's the same geometry.
Yes. How does this work with the reality creation that Julia is doing or will do in the future?
As something about semitones. I don't know what that means, but it's like Julia's been focusing on the tones, the overtones, and she's being guided to keep doing that, but to focus on the semitones. And so it's almost as I'm seeing my future self putting these panels of light in space. There's a nuance. These panels that we've been provided through, the government, the corporate, the federation.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with them. They're not subpar, but they aren't as nuanced as an artist would make. These are mechanical. These are fixtures.
I see.
So as we're putting these fixtures around Lyra, they have a limitation because they're just mechanic. It's just mechanics. So that's when I realized that there's something that could be more. There's something more than just the mechanics of the space-time. And
Yes.
that's when this other project starts. It's almost like I can see my life switch from like that realization that we're limited in a way, but it's like it's a self-limitation around Lyra, if that makes sense. There's a
That does make sense. It does. Is it a self-limitation as the collective?
that's what I would say from this perspective now. Like it's all like both it's both collective and individual and cosmic, just the way everything happens. There's a reason that it wouldn't be we know there's a reason that it wouldn't be beneficial to go past this, and so we've set up that limitation, just like the baby in a playpen or any of the limitations that we set up. They're just to they're temporary. They're all temporary.
Yes.
And so I'm just being shown the temporary nature of this limitation and why it's appropriate. We don't need to bring back Lyra. We don't need to resurrect my dead dad. We don't need to bring Lazarus back over and over and over. It doesn't need to happen in this fixed way that Julia might imagine that it needed to happen, or wondered why doesn't it do this? Well, we don't want it to. It's
Uh,
the easy answer is we don't want it to, so it won't. What do we want? That's how reality aligns itself. That's how we expand that torus. That's where we choose which dimension, where on that line how we're going to experience our ride, for lack
mm,
of a better term. And so I'm seeing that there's a different energy that is built. And it's interesting because she's curious too about why isn't Greg there? He was there. He's there on the ship with me. He's rebuilding space around Lyra. Why doesn't he come
ah,
with me to the next stage? But I'm seeing now that's because first of all, his journey is different. His soul is from Andromeda. And so he's following his people's
okay.
narrative, and it's a different narrative than Lyra. It's not that different, but it's different. That's his and this is mine. And his is more mechanical. And so I'm seeing that with the squares. And then it's not, Julia was worried that they were opposed or, conflicting or something. It's not at all. It's actually congruent. He's got it's an interesting differentiation because in some ways Julia's more mechanical and more with the shapes, but there's something about him being more defined. It's a viewpoint of the shape. His is more in the physical realm, and mine's more in the ethereal. It's an interesting.
Yes.
It's he's got his thing, and then I've got mine, and it's just we want to emphasize that it is not indicative of different life paths or that they're on different missions or anything. It's congruent, and we want to just re-emphasize that. And the art piece that Julia's doing, it's just the same way that she does sessions and Greg does his stuff. It's the same in that other in that other route. Julia's doing art,
Exactly.
Perspectra in that. This soul's doing art, and she's collaborating with other females, and it's important. It was important for her to reach out. Julia reached out to her friend and said, I know we're working on this future project together. Are you on board? And her friend said, I don't know why, but I can't say no. And there was something that was important about that affirmation that was like a feminine, it wasn't in rebellion against the male energy, it was in full congruence with what we are. And
Yeah.
that needed to happen. And that needed to happen when Julia came away from that potential relationship with Prince. And we're so happy that that's how that was viewed.
So Greg is there. You're working together in two different aspects.
Yes, and it's interesting because it's not like we're destined in that life. We were on a crew together, and we spent we had a beautiful relationship in that lifetime. But I don't sense that we end up together in that realm either. So it's an interesting juxtaposition where it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
possessive, where it's like and the same. That's what we're encouraging Julia to keep coming into. It's where she started from, but it's a balance. And so we're encouraging her to understand that she can let go.
Wonderful. What does she need to let go of?
Being possessive,
Okay.
it's not that she's overly possessive, it's just that that's where we're showing, we're, we're seeing that it's a, how do we want to put it? It's a trust issue, and it's not a trust with him, it's her. It's her trusting herself, trusting her value, trusting her. And that's this whole thing is it's showing her that she has the ability and that there's something that she is there's something that she can bring to the world that nobody else can.
Yes.
And we're just encouraging her to keep bringing that to the surface. And it's not separate from the sacred geometry. It's not separate from any of these things that we're discussing. It's the same practice. It's the practice. And it is repetitive, and that's what she's in the past had problems with, and that she's just now starting to embrace. And that's where John reminds her slow and steady wins the race, and he reminds her that often.
Beautiful. Let it flow. I wonder if John has more to share.
He just says the same things over and over. He just says the same things. It must be important. He just says, I'm not ignoring you, I'm waiting for you. So slow and steady wins the race. Slow and steady. I don't have to go faster. I just have to be steady. And he reminds me it's okay. I'm supposed to be a brat.
You're supposed to be a brat?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm not supposed to comply. But he reminds me that we can pull it back. He reminds me when I can pull it back. And so I give him that permission. I give him that permission to always come in and remind me when I can pull it back. And when I don't need to be a brat. John was one of the first people when I would talk about my abortion and I would talk about it so fighting, like he'd say, you don't need to do that. And he's so right. I never needed to do.
No.
And it's so it makes sense now. So now that I see how that energy doesn't need to be judged harshly. And how the judging harshly it creates the gap, it creates them. And so
Yes.
John's just showing me how to temper that. And John John is a brat. And so it's like if we can do it the right way, that's how spiritual rebellion works.
Excellent. Excellent.
And she's been doing a lot better. She can feel it come, and then she steps back. And she might even still make the same comment she would have made in the past, but it has a different energy. And she's noticing that her reactions are getting better and better. So just as she can be more consistent, I mean, just doing things like watching you is helping. Watching you show up with your videos, it's encouraging her to do the same things, to do it in her way, to start putting little things on the things that are helpful on repeat. And it's not to get the John says, show yourself. Show yourself. Don't sell yourself. Show yourself.
Beautiful.
He's telling me that I'm worthy. He's like, look at you, you're fine.
Yes. And just allow it to move. Everything is beautifully flowing, tamed.
He's
Both.
encouraging me to dress nicer. He's showing me his coat. He says this is why I always dress in a suit. He might be
Oh,
homeless. He might be homeless, but he's in a suit.
oh. What will dressing nicer help you as Julia with?
It's from the inside. It's just a care. It's the same as it's to just care about self, and it comes out. And it's like the dressing nicer, or just putting whatever. She's been just a better self-care routine
Okay.
has been it's been helping, and it doesn't have to be anything strict. We tell her to do two things a day. Just do two things a day that support that feeling. And then usually as she's doing those two things, she's doing a dozen things. It keeps going. So we just want to
I
reinforce,
see.
do two things a
Yes.
day, just two things. And that it's I don't want that's really all she needs to do. It sounds silly, and it sounds like she doesn't sounds like too little to her in her conscious mind, two things a day. But that's the trick. It's just two things. For whatever
Do the
reason, that's the magic number. It's like if she tries to.
two, yeah, do the two things a day. Is that because it's manageable?
Yeah, and she has a list. She made this list of probably 30 different things that she could choose from. Do a dish, pick up a towel, just the silliest little things. She can choose from any of them, and that's what's it's like the top thing is our list is share a story on quantum healers. So she's been
Okay,
doing that consistently for the last few days.
wonderful.
And it's not necessarily important that she does that every day. It just putting anything on she's seeing it and she's embracing it, and it's slowly coming. She thinks it needs to come faster. We hear her say, but it needs to come faster. And we understand that judgment. We don't want to. we understand ambition, but there's something about the steadiness that's going to encourage that gives her that reward. She's seeing it, and it's coming. It's like she's seeing it with the synchronicity. She's seeing it as Candace messaged her yesterday. She's seeing it when people are reaching out. And she just doubts her ability to show up.
Is there something we can address in this session right now? to help alleviate that doubt?
Let us check. She wants to go to the bathroom.
Go to the bathroom.
Or I do. She,
Yeah,
I'll be
you're
right back.
you're like me where it's back and forth. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, especially
we
this
flow back
session.
and forth.
Yeah.
You can jump back in to wherever you were at. I was thinking about some of the other questions that you as Julia had been thinking about for John, but if anything, you can jump in wherever it feels good.
Yeah, what questions did we have for John?
Well, for John, I wrote down several things about Lyra and the fly, about how you have been bringing the fly back to life, about creating life in a galaxy or a universe or an atom or a realm, and how we can align with patterns that assist us in growing and creating.
I'm seeing the scale, like the Fibonacci sequence going, describing the scale. And so he's just reinforcing it's the same thing he's been saying, that it's all the same. It's all the same math. It's all the same principles.
Yes.
And this music. And so he keeps showing me the guitar and he's encouraging me to play the guitar. He's showing me that there's plenty of other ways to connect with it, but I have that right here.
Sure.
So he's showing me to put that on the list of things to do. It's like, do that. And he's like, do that every day.
That can go on your list of 2 things per day.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of those things that it's like a no-brainer that he's showing me that will put me in another category, like another frequency. Encourage me to do the things that I'm already involved in or peripherally involved in, like chanting. You know, he's showing me it's the
Yes.
same thing. It's the same type of meditation. The chanting is a, a doorway, and then it's like as we use that doorway, it's there's a learning involved in it to where it's like we're applying the left brain. It's like in mystic work, we look so much on the right brain and tapping into that other world, but then it's almost like that idiom, you know, before enlightenment, carry water, after enlightenment, carry water, and that is the gist of it, is that there's a left brain that's just as important as the right brain, and John's so balanced that he's showing me that that option, you know, showing me his own pattern, his own, it's like his own, I'm seeing it like a weave. It's interesting. I see it like,
Can we ask about how the music and the Fibonacci spiral, as part of the answer today, how does this relate to Julia or the collective and the question about the axis?
I keep seeing Holy Eagle Peak. My first BQH session, I went to Holy Eagle Peak and I saw the Buddha. I'm not sure what that has to do with it, but that's where I'm being led again. And I'm seeing that ceremony. And the Buddha always showed in this kind of metric, like a Metatron's cube. And in that, she could sort of see resemblance of faces. And John was the main character that wanted to come through as the Buddha. And so I'm just noticing being on Holy Eagle Peak, and I'm looking down and I'm seeing this star. What was the question?
Really, how does what John has been showing you today relate to creation, the creation that you're doing? Any information related to that for the collective? And then maybe how does it play into the axis? Any information that would like to be shared feels valid.
Yeah, I'm seeing two domes, like a geometry, like here's the plane that we've sort of been talking about. Like this is what I'm thinking about as the 3D world, like this plane, and it's like a little record player analogy. And then it's like I'm seeing above that a shape like this, or like an hourglass coming above the dome, and then a shape like that going below the dome. So I'm just seeing like the nested manner in which reality seems to organize itself. It's like as above, so below. I'm getting the idea that this is many different layers of this happening. And so it's like I'm being shown when I was in the other life and I'm in the ceremony in the air, this Buddhist gathering, space-time expanded in order to allow everyone to fit into a limited space. And there wasn't anything particularly mechanical about it. It was a desire. It was the Buddha's desire that be possible, and his desire made that possible.
Ah,
It was in alignment. He created that alignment. And so I'm just seeing the similarity with the geometry. It's the same. I'm seeing it's like almost the same as what do they call those plates with sand on them, and then they run a bow on
the
it.
thing.
Yeah, the word's escaping me, but the plate where the sand makes the different patterns depending on the tone. That's what I'm seeing, but it's like in 3D. It's not on a one plane. But it is. But there is a plane also. And that's where we are. That's how you would define where most of this physical life takes place, is this limited plane of physical reality. But then what I'm seeing is just an expanded shape that goes above and below that, the same way almost like a supernova kind of comes out in an hourglass shape, or almost like the way a black hole looks. There's something important about that geometry that Julia just hasn't considered yet that plays into the rest of what she's doing in that future life.
Can we ask for that to continue to become coherent and integrate into her field of awareness as time goes?
Yeah, it's inevitable. It's what it seems to be inevitable. It seems to be like this is the path that she's on.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, she has choices. We don't want to insinuate that there aren't choice, but this is the choice she's made. There would be no reason to think that she won't accomplish this.
Exactly. With this future where she creates galaxies and life in the future, is there any recommendation about what Julia needs to do better? She made a comment about letting go of stuff that's wrong at this moment.
She's been doing better. So in theory, if she were to just keep up what she's doing,
Yes.
now she has a habit of 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and that's not, we want to just tell her that's not inconsistent. That is part of consistency. We've shown her this before, but we're showing her the seismograph, and it may go all over, and that doesn't mean that it's inconsistent. That just means that it's a consistent upward line, even with the back and forth. So we're just reminding her. We showed her that our first session. We're showing it to her again. We're just emphasizing that she is making progress. Now that she's realizing she's making progress, she might even be tempted to judge herself more negatively based on that progress. And so we're just showing her that's what she's been falling into the last 2 years, and we're showing her that. And this is the first time she's really understanding it. So it seems a little bit redundant to her left brain. It seems a little bit redundant that we're doing this. She knows this already. This is the first time she's understood it in that way. She's seeing it. We want her to feel it.
Can she feel it now?
Yeah, give us just a moment. We want her to tap in and feel it
Yes.
a little bit more fully.
Excellent.
And it's interesting because what we were talking about yesterday and the visualization that you helped her with yesterday, I'll describe it again as there was a tear in her continuity.
Yes.
And it was like a divot. And in yesterday's session, you had her push that up and fill that in, and then planted seeds, and she covered that over.
Yes.
Something important about that, and we're showing her that geometry with the seismograph. And there's a similarity that she's understanding. It's like even the divot it's not really a divot. It's an opportunity. It's all part of the continuity. It's all part of the plan. As organic as the plan is, as it springs up in the moment, we assign a continuity to it, and it's for our own entertainment more than anything. And so we're just showing her that she's are you not entertained? Was the phrase that just came through as a joke. Someone's joking. Are you not entertained? Fair enough.
Is this not why you were here?
What else is relevant right now?
I just saw there's these beings I work with. They call themselves Tanakh and Shinnok.
Okay.
They're from Sirius, and I meet them on an asteroid in Orion. Like in Orion's belt, there's like a small planetoid or maybe even an asteroid, and there's a piece of technology there that broadcasts a signal. The signal is meant to disrupt Earth. It's not a kind signal. But what we tend to do is we go and we hijack that signal and we change it and we make it a kind signal to Earth.
With the Tanakh?
Tanakh and Shinnok, that's a son and his mother. And
Oh,
showing me, they're just we do this every so often and they teach me just a little bit more every time. So they're just showing me it's time to recalibrate and we're moving the resonance up just a frequency. It's just like they might shave a bell to preserve its ohm tone.
ah,
And I'm showing that the frequency, it's the same frequency as the chant, the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, the love. It's the same frequency as the evolutionary path that we're working towards. And so it's almost like every few months we go there and we just shift it up.
awesome.
I don't know if they know we're doing it or not. It doesn't seem to be like, I don't know, it's subterfuge, but I don't know, nobody's gotten in trouble for it. There have been no negative repercussions from just shifting that tone, shifting it up a little bit.
I like that.
Yeah, it's like the entire earth needs that. It just gives us a sigh, a resting, or some hope.
Yes. Are you adjusting it again now?
It's like it already was done, but they're just showing me. They're just like
Okay.
reminding me. It's like maybe I didn't realize that it needed to be done so frequently.
Oh,
It's like I thought it was
okay.
just kind of like maybe once a year, once every 2 years, but it's like no, it's every few months. It's like the same way you might change a filter on a Brita built picture. Like he need to just pay a little bit more attention. And this is like it's their job. It's not really my job, but they're teaching me. It's like they're showing me the nature of this work and just showing they
And we could go on forever.
like to joke
Now, that
around.
series of notes or frequencies
Oh,
is called the
wonderful.
Natural Harmonic Series. And it holds true for most things that vibrate, vibrating strings or columns of air.
Good friends.
Yeah, yeah. They're clever. I don't know how to describe them. They change form too. So it's interesting. It's like the way they look on Sirius is they're these light beings, and it depends on whether they're Sirius A or B. The planets that go around A or B, whether they're blue or they're yellow. But then when I see them on the planetoid, they look like small, almost gray beings, but almost like a human agent. They change form depending on what environment they're in.
Neat. Have you been working with them for a long time?
A couple of years. This came to me once when I was ready to go to sleep and introduce themselves.
I wonder if they have any information they'd like to share about anything at all that might be relevant to the session today.
But I'm seeing a tuning fork.
Bells are a fascinating exception. A bell's vibration pattern can't be visualized by a two-dimensional wave. When a bell is struck, the entire bell vibrates, and its vibration pattern is really complex. So we don't hear the natural harmonic series. Instead, we hear an entirely different combination of frequencies. And rather than calling these frequencies harmonics, we call them partials, or partial notes. So the first bell partial is actually an undertone, a full octave lower than the strike tone. So if I play the C on the carillon, same note I played on the piano, we're also hearing a partial that's a full octave lower than that note. That undertone is called the hum tone. Actually, the hum tone persists much longer than the strike tone. Listen, long after the strike tone has decayed, you can still hear the hum tone.
And they're working on me. They're tuning me.
Oh,
They're shaping
excellent.
my bell.
Okay. That works.
Yeah. It's like there is a bunch of energy in here. Just right here in my core. That's
They're like calibrating and helping move it and stuff.
yeah, it's almost just like squeezing a poop out of a tube. Like just
Yeah. Yep.
they said to play 417 hertz.
Okay.
It's the same tone that John tunes the guitars to.
I wonder if that links to the semitones that came in as an important message for you earlier.
Good point. Yeah, it does. It does. I'd almost call it a tone versus a semitone, but because of the nature of because everyone thinks of 432 as the tone, that's where the semitone is coming in. So you, thank you.
I get it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. It's a nuance, but it's an important nuance that it has a potential of being overlooked. It's been drilled into her 417, so she'll remember that, but it's the tendency to go towards the 432. It's almost like an in-breath or a reflection that occurs with that tone, a reflection.
Okay.
A reflection, that's important. And that has to do with the angles of the panels in the 90 degrees. It's like I'm seeing a line and there's something to do. It's not, I don't know that it's going to come in fully right now, but it's like I'm seeing the line and there's some way to reflect. There's something about the in-breath and the expansion and the out-breath and the geometry and that movement, like, going back to that record player and the line that's moving on the record player and the point that's moving and making the flower of life. There's a reflection on it the same way that someone listens to the record. The record is its own thing, but when you play it, you reflect on the tones that you hear and become part of. Music becomes part of you.
Yes.
So there's some that's being emphasized, the congruity of all of it. And it's being emphasized that when you create your own congruity, you fit in. And Julia's almost resistant to that because she's never really wanted to fit in. But we're showing it to her in a way that eases that interpretation. like you fit in a hug.
Excellent.
John's hugging me. So
Wonderful. We're so grateful for John.
it's looking in my eyes and he says, "You got this." And he's comparing me to him, which always seems silly, but he's like, if I can do it, you can do it. And he's showing me the potential, my potential. And compare, he says, "Look, I'm already dead." He says, "Look at the potential you have."
Beautiful. Are you, as Julia, able to receive and accept this?
Mostly.
Yes.
As much as I ever have, or more.
Good.
He's not wrong. He's rarely wrong. It happens, but it's rare. Yeah, I'm able to accept it on deeper levels. Yeah.
It's wonderful. I'm so glad.
And here by Mozart's opera teacher, Christoph Gluck, the Dance of the Blessed Spirits from his opera Orpheus.